insurance. This is Tony Cañas, and today I want to talk to you about Robert Cialdini's research and the resulting book, Influence. I've been a fan of Cialdini for, at least 5 years, and his book has had a significant influence in my life, so I wanted to take the time to tell you about it. Quick disclaimer, I am not a Cialdini method certified trainer. There is such a thing, and I am not one of them. In fact, there are only 14 of them in the world that are certified Cialdini trainers. I actually happen to know one, Brian Ahern, I'm probably mispronouncing his name. I will tag him on the video to see if I got it right. So this is a quick introduction to Cialdini, kind of a book report on this book that I have found really, really helpful. So Robert Cialdini has dedicated his academic life to research on influence and on what he calls compliance professionals. And he has found several different things that are very, 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 very useful if you are in a role such as sales, or really in any given role where you have to influence people without having authority. And there are many roles in insurance like that. And I think this is just a good skill set for everybody. The book teaches you how to defend yourself against those same attempts when they're kind of done covertly. Number one, when asking for a favor, always include a reason. Simply put, people like having a reason. It's very, very, very silly. Giving a reason makes it much more likely that people will do you the favor. And the really funny thing is, because is the word that makes a difference. What's after because doesn't make too much of a difference according to Cialdini's research. The example that he uses is somebody cutting in line to make photocopies. If that person just asks, can I cut in line to make a photocopy? The response rate is low. I don't have the exact number in front of me. But if that person says, can I cut in line in front of you to make this photocopy because I'm in a hurry? Not a great reason. The compliance to her or his favor request goes up significantly. So always remember, if you're asking for a favor, the word because, give a reason. Even if it's a silly reason, a reason makes a difference. A higher price tag generally reflects higher quality. So there are many cases in the commercial world where sales will increase if you raise prices. And I think this happens a lot, especially in the professional services, in the speaking, in the consulting world. I find that this is very true. Raise your prices, demand increases because perception of quality increases. The reason that things like this work, our brains haven't really yet evolved to catch up with the realities of our world. So we live in this very, very complex world, and our brain has to use rules of thumb in order to survive in this crazy world. And there are times where most of the time the rules of thumb work in our favor. Sometimes they can be abused, or they can be utilized by other people to get us to do what they want us to do. Chapter 2 is all about reciprocity. It's very, very interesting. Every culture has a rule about reciprocity. Every culture in the human world has a rule that we should try to repay in kind what another person has done for us. If you receive a gift, you probably feel a strong need to give some sort of gift back. So although the obligation to repay is the essence of the rule, what makes it easy to get an advantage is the obligation to receive. Basically, there's a strong cultural pressure to accept a gift, regardless of who it's coming from, and regardless of, even if it's an unwanted gift, there's a strong cultural pressure to accept it. And that rule can trigger unfair exchanges. A small initial favor can easily produce a sense of obligation to agree to a substantially larger one in return. Another consequence of this is to make a concession for someone who has already made a concession for us. And one way to get a request approved is to ask for something larger first, and then ask for what you really want. And I used this tactic when I was a kid very, very well on my mom, asking for something much larger and then bringing it down, and she would be happy to comply. And I remember when I interviewed for a role at the Iowa State University, when I was there at Iowa State, go Cyclones, the Iowa State University call center, I can't remember what it's called, but basically what they do is call an alumni and try to get donations. And the way they train you, and they told me this during the interview, the way they train you is they train you to ask for $1,000 donation. Needless to say, that's kind of a sizable donation, and most people are not going to agree to a $1,000 donation. It's very well research backed. You ask for the $1,000 donation, keeping a straight face, and when they say no, you come down to like $50. And then they're so much more likely to say yes to that $50 donation than they ever were if you had asked for the $50 right up front. So if you ask for something big first, it has to be within reason, right? If you ask for $1 million, they're just gonna hang up on you, they're just gonna laugh. But if you ask for something reasonable that they're unlikely to say yes to, the second request will be perceived as a concession, and they will feel a reciprocity. They will feel that they have to make a concession in order to help you out. The larger the initial request, the more effective the procedure, but the first request can't be too extreme or or it backfires. If it's ridiculous, it backfires. Chapter 3 is commitment and consistency. It is easier to resist at the beginning than at the end. That is a quote from Leonardo da Vinci. Humans have a nearly obsessive desire to appear consistent with what they've already done. Once somebody commits, micro commitments, once somebody commits, the ground is set for automatic consistency to future requests that are related to that first commitment. Great example in the book from the American Cancer Society, where they first called on people in a particular neighborhood and said, we're doing a survey. If you had the chance to donate to the American Cancer Society, or if you had the chance to volunteer time for the American Cancer Society, would you do it? Most people think of themselves as good people. You're not being asked to donate time, you're just being surveyed on whether you would. Most people said yes. A week later, when they get called back and actually asked to volunteer for the American Cancer Society, they had a 700% increase in people saying yes compared to the control group, because they had already made a little bit of commitment, and their own identity had been shaped in such a way that they thought of themselves as the kind of people that says yes to volunteering for the American Cancer Society. So if you start with a small request, it is hard to deny and then grow from there. It's the foot in the door technique. If you're in sales, small favor. If it's an in-person visit, can I borrow a pen or a pencil? Can I get a bottle of water, a glass of water? Those small requests over time grow into the prospect getting used to saying yes to you. Chapter 4, social proof. Since 95% of people are imitators and only 5% are initiators, people are persuaded more by the actions of others than any proof we can offer. Basically, humans, when we are unsure how to act, we naturally look around and see what our peers are doing. Take cues from that. So this chapter has a ton of ways that social proof is used to get consistency. One that I don't remember if it came from this book, that I've seen in other books, hotels. If hotels tell you to participate in their green program, in their program where sheets don't get washed every night by leaving them in a particular part of the room, the compliance is very low, let's say 20%. If hotels tell you 85% of people participate in a program, you're a lot more likely to participate, because the social proof is there. Social proof is incredibly powerful. Chapter 5 is called The Friendly Thief, and this is all about how most people prefer to say yes to the request of people that they know and like. The friend doesn't even have to be present. The mere mention of their name triggers and increases compliance. So basically, even saying, I do this all the time, even name dropping somebody that I do know and somebody that I do have contact with in the same company increases the chances that this person will give me a meeting. Also, there's an increasing compliance if the seller is perceived as attractive. That's called the halo effect. This is very well documented in psychology. Somebody that is attractive, we automatically assume other positive traits in them. It's called the halo effect. Also, we are suckers for flattery, and we like things and people that we are familiar with. Finally, we become fonder of people and things that are experienced while eating. This is why, if at all possible, if you're in sales, if you have the chance to take prospects out to eat, you will connect much deeper. I did this extensively in my first job in transportation. One of the hardest things was to keep the truckers to stay around, to not quit when they were in high demand from other trucking companies. The turnover rate in trucking at that time was like 117%. It takes almost 1.2 truckers to keep a truck moving the whole year. So we got bonuses for retaining our truckers. Whenever they went to the Des Moines, Iowa, where I was living, I would take them out to eat. The company would pay, and I would get a free meal out of it. But the biggest advantage I got, we became friends over those meals, and they were much less likely to quit. Chapter 6 is all about authority and how people respond to authority. The funny thing is, even the appearance of authority increases compliance significantly. So wearing a suit increases people's perception of you as an authoritative source. And finally, chapter 7 digs into scarcity and how when something appears scarce, we want it more. The appearance of scarcity is often enough. That is the reason that websites often tell you that this particular offer is only good for the next 7 days. And I tell you what, if you keep that website open, and unless it's Black Friday, if you reload it in 10 days, it'll again, even though the timer has expired, it'll again tell you that this offer is only good for 7 days. 7 days going forward from here. That is my quick summary of Influence by Robert Cialdini. Fantastic book. You should read it. It can help you not only be more convincing and more influential when you don't have authority. It'll help you in sales if you're in sales, but we're all in sales. We're all selling ideas in one way or another, or selling ourselves in one way or another. It'll help you defend yourself against compliance practitioners that are using the dark arts of compliance against you in a way that you would not want. Thank you for tuning in.